let's move on to point number 1 of this article. Point number 1 in this article says this:
always believe the accuser. The rallying cry of today's apparently liberal crusaders against rape is believe. They always believe the accuser. To doubt the accuser is to risk being branded a rape apologist. Campaign groups with names like We Believe You and I Believe You, It's Not Your Fault, speak to the readiness of campaigners to accept every accusation of rape as good coin. Even in the wake of the Rolling Stone scandal, where an allegation of gang rape at the University of Virginia had been exposed as a tissue of lies, a writer for the Washington Post insisted we must automatically believe rape allegations because incredulity hurts victims.
Yes, and I know I'm speaking to the choir when we understand that this is happening all around us. But the point is that with this article, they're trying to make a comparison between these kind of rape allegations where there's a loss of due process, a complete loss of it, and they're comparing it to the past. Remember, the Deep South, the late, 19th century, early 20th century. The article does go on to say this:
automatic belief of rape accusations was a central principle of the KKK's war on rape, too. This was one of the things that most shocked Ida B. Wells, the early 20th century African-American journalist and civil rights activist, a woman, by the way. The word of the accuser is held to be true, she said, which means that the rule of law is reversed, and instead of proving the accused to be guilty, the accused must prove himself innocent.
This is what is going on today, and it's a very fair comparison between the modern-day feminists with the past KKK members and their rape hysteria on rape of white women by black men or black slaves. Very, very similar. Now, today we have the concept of Bill Cosby, the allegations that have been made against him. It's huge in the media. It's big. Everybody's talking about it, and a number of women have come forward. And why are they coming forward about something, 20 to 25 years later? Here, again, there's no opportunity for due process. And it's more than that. There's no opportunity for the accused to look the accuser in the eye, to make any ounce of evidence for or against what is being said. It is incredible, it is unbelievable, and we're reliving something that should have been abolished so long ago. Because, to be honest, backing the truth has never been financially sound or prosperous, has it? But I think this is one reason why I personally always immediately disregard any popular narrative that comes out within the multimedia of the internet or television. I choose to disbelieve first, because the popular narrative is always considered with profit as the bottom line. It's never concerned with distributing the truth for free. But anyway, let's move on to point number 2. Point number 2 of the article says this:
saving women from cross-examination. One of the key claims of today's non-racist crusaders against rape is that the cross-examination of rape claimants is too tough, and we need softer, less combative ways to establish the guilt of rape suspects. The Guardian says rape claimants who are subjected to a rigorous trial process feel like they have been raped all over again. Cross-examination is humiliating and needlessly grueling. The UK Labour Party says cross-examination is too harsh for rape victims and has promised to change the law to restrict cross-examination in such cases.
Now, I have spoken about this before in previous videos, and I will put links below, but it basically comes down to this: rape shield laws, which came into effect back in the 70s. And these rape shield laws, of course, they nullified the long practice of confrontation clause. this confrontation clause, or the concept of it, was that the accused had the right to look his accuser in the eye. And that's been going on since the Roman times. But apparently, when it comes to rape, you can forget all about it. This is not a new phenomenon. Although this article likes to try and paint it like it's something that's going on, that's new. No, it has been going on for at least about 40 years. So you have to be prepared. If you are a man and you're accused of rape, don't ever think that society at large or the law is going to actually accept the fact that whoever accused you needs to stand up and be present. No, they are anonymous, and they will be, and it always has been that way. But the article then goes on to compare it to the KKK in the past. And it says this:
the KKK was likewise obsessed with sparing women from cross-examination. It also justified its extrajudicial activities, in its case, mob-delivered capital punishment of suspected black rapists, as a way of saving rape claimants from being publicly questioned. As Crystal Nicole Feimster says in her book Southern Horrors, Women and the Politics of Rape and Lynching, lynchings of rape suspects were justified as a way of sparing the female victim the humiliation of having to appear in court to testify before her alleged assailant, an all-male jury, and an audience of courthouse rowdies.
Now, we are going to see this again and again and again in our modern times. Women claiming they are victims and too precious and too fragile to be able to accept responsibility of making a claim or an admission of saying that this person committed a crime. But not just any crime, but a crime of rape. And a crime that the person who is being accused of it, as soon as it is known, his entire life is destroyed. Now, let's move on to point number 3. And point number 3 says this:
spreading panic about a rape culture. The buzz phrase of our age is rape culture, of course. Fear-mongering feminists claim women are surrounded by the threat of rape, as evidenced in everything from The Sun's page 3 to the continued existence of raunchy rock music, and are drowning in what one melodramatic columnist calls a sea of misogyny. Activists make videos of themselves being catcalled in the street to demonstrate that a culture of rape is all around us, even as the statistics suggest that actual incidents of rape are declining. For example, the U.S. National Crime Victimization Survey records an 85% decline in the per capita victimization rate of rape over the last 35 years. Still, the panic about rape is stoked.
And of course it is stoked. They're stoking the fire of money-making capital. They don't care what is true or what is not. They simply want to make money, and this makes money. For example, this article would not make money on any of those websites. Not one of them. This would not be brought up in the Rolling Stone. It would not be brought up in so many different types of media as far as printing the news is concerned. Again, it compares it to the Deep South, and it says,
one of the main ways in which racists in the Deep South maintained social division and social order was through the specter of rape. They promoted the idea that white women were under constant threat from lustful black men. Even though the black rape of white women was not a major problem, still the idea that there was a menacing culture of rape was indulged. As one historian of the South put it, crimes of black on white rape gripped the white imagination far out of proportion to their statistical significance.
Now, if you think that back then the statistical significance was outweighed by the fear-mongering of the media at the time, how much more construed do you believe it is today? It is out of control. It is out of control lies, basically. And people need to understand this, and they need to rebuild from this bullshit. Now let's move on to point number 4 from my sourced article.
No redemption for rapists. Deep South racists lynched black men for all sorts of crimes, including the crime of disrespecting a white person. But they peddled the myth that most lynchings were for rape, because rape was seen, in their words, as the ultimate transgression, and thus they knew there'd be little blowback for such lynchings that punished this crime. The finality of death was justified for the black rapist of a white woman because there could never be any earthly redemption for such a heinous crime. They depicted their lynchings of suspected rapists, their destruction of a rapist's life, as a means of cleansing society of evil.
If that is hard for you to believe, maybe you could compare this to the Duke lacrosse team. Do you remember that?
What was remarkable is that lots of figures within the media, within the Duke faculty, and to a certain extent within the Duke administration, not only presumed the players to be guilty, but then drew these very broad moral judgments. It was a completely closed-minded early approach to the case.
And if your memory happens to be short-sighted, maybe you remember this.
Some other news. I want to get to the Rolling Stone story if we could. Rolling Stone is now dealing with blowback from all sides as the magazine changes its story following its sweeping expose of an alleged gang rape at the University of Virginia fraternity house there. The original article drew global attention to allegations that stunned the campus, but on Friday, the magazine issued a note to readers casting doubt on its own story and acknowledging it never reached out to the men accused of the crime out of deference to the victim. Rolling Stone said in part, quote, "We should not have made this agreement with Jackie, and we should have worked harder to convince her that the truth would have been better served by getting the other side of the story." The note also said our trust in her was misplaced. But that line also sparked a backlash, with some critics saying it sounded like the woman was being blamed. Later, Rolling Stone altered its apology, removing the line about misplaced trust and writing, quote, this: "These mistakes are on Rolling Stone, not on Jackie. We apologize to anyone who was affected by the story, and we will continue to investigate the events of that evening."